Yo, we are live again. It's the Hip Hop Citizen live stream. Welcome to episode 2, Mr. Pack. Episode 2 of the Pack and Mac show, Hip Politics with Pack and Mac. What's up, everybody? My man Marcus, talk to me, brother. How's your week?
What's up, Mac? What's up, Mac? How you doing this week, man? We doing good over here.
Yeah. Doing real good over here too, my friend. Pack, a.k.a. Wolves, huh? You want to explain that one?
Oh, man. Well, you know, Pack is because of my last name, Packer. So growing up, people just called me Pack. And Wolves came in college, right after college, because Pack of Wolves. I'm a Pack of Wolves. I come with the freshness, the realness, you know.
Okay.
So when I come hard. So they call me Wolves.
Okay, fair enough, man. We're going to work on that mic next time, brother. You know, so we can get you straight, squared away. Big quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors, if you don't mind, Mr. Pack. Just want to give a quick shout out to all of our followers out there on Twitch. Don't forget, if you already are not following us, make sure you are following us on Twitch. Tonight's show, Hip Politics with Pack and Mac, is also sponsored by Twitch, and my daughter screaming in the background. And also, of course, don't forget the Friday Night Live show. This show or this broadcast is also sponsored by the Friday Night Live show. Every Friday night, catches all, Dialect 718, Architect 7, myself, and any special guests you may find. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Welcome, brother. Welcome, brother, man. It's like it's my heart is heavy right now. And for those who are listening, I know you know what I'm talking about. The cops that were charged in the Breonna Taylor shooting have been exonerated for the most part. No one will be going to jail for her death, and it's really hit hard. Right now, they're protesting in the city. They are protesting in Michigan. They're protesting all in the Midwest right now, including California and elsewhere. And what we have to start asking ourselves as hip hop citizens is, what the hell is going on? How much is a Black woman's life really worth? And when we talk about Black women, the most beat down segment of our society historically, I think we have to stand up as men, as Black men. We have to stand up as community members to say enough is enough. Right now, we're looking at some craziness right now. My heart is heavy.
I completely agree, my man Marcus, so Mr. Pat, because, that actually brings us to our subject of tonight. The question is, we talk about the Second Amendment. Did the government overreach Breonna Taylor? And, in my mind, you got a lot of gun advocates. We've had a lot of good gun shows and debates here on Hip Hop Citizen as well. We always talk about the right to bear arms. But here we have a case where a no-knock warrant in the middle of the night and someone comes busting in. Do you protect yourself, or is this another gimmick to suppress the Second Amendment rights from rightful Black gun owners? I mean, did Breonna Taylor have a right to defend herself?
Well, that's a good question, Juan. So, let's look at the facts. The facts of the matter is that the police came in on a no-knock warrant. Breonna was in her home with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend is a licensed carrier, and he fired a shot at the warning shot, mind you, a warning shot through a closed door, from what I've read, and that struck a police officer. So he wasn't aiming to shoot anybody or kill anybody. He was aiming to protect himself and his family. And this has happened far too many times, where Black people are not allowed to protect themselves, where we are discouraged from owning guns and protecting ourselves and our families. That's why, just like in the first show, I advocated and continue to advocate that any Black person that is without felonies or what have you, that are legally okay to own a gun, should own a gun to protect themselves and their families, just like any other American is allowed to do. Now, what's interesting is that the Attorney General in this case, who's overseeing the case, who promised transparency, who promised justice, is a Black man. And he has come out publicly in support of the officers. So what we have to do as a people is coalesce in the smartest way possible to make sure that our voices are heard, that our Black women know that we have their back, and that when something like this happens, there is a price to pay.
Hey, listen, I mean, let's be real here. Do Black people have Breonna Taylor's back now? I mean, did the system fail her? I mean, I would think that Breonna had a right to life. I mean, we just saw the jury come down, and they are, I guess, holding the officer accountable for shooting bullets into their units. And oh, by the way, there were bullets fired into other neighbors who happened to be Black, but there was no protection from them as well.
Right. Right.
We're still seeking confirmation on that, but this smells ripe of disturbance right ahead of a critical a Supreme Court justice nomination lapse. I guess we'll get into that later. I think it's no coincidence that this is all happening in Kentucky, home of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. That's
but
right.
Yeah, I mean, some of this stuff is it's just a little bit too close for comfort.
Right. And a lot of people also feel, Mac, that this should have at least gone to trial, right? The merits of the case should not just have been tried in a grand jury where the Attorney General has the right to add or take away information that he or she sees fit to add or take away. In a situation like this where material facts are not readily available, that means it should go to a jury. There was not an opportunity for a jury of Breonna's peers to judge the cops that shot and killed her while she was sleeping in her bed.
There was a grand jury.
That's what the problem
wait a minute, Marcus. There's a grand jury, right? I mean,
yeah,
what do you say to those advocates who said, "Hey, the system works"?
Right.
It was a grand jury. The secret grand juries again.
Yeah, well, let me answer that because to my knowledge, the grand jury is getting their information directly from the Attorney General. So there's only one side to the story when there's a grand jury. The state represents the people, and the state was supposed to represent Breonna Taylor. Okay. Instead, they represented their own facts that the cops were basically innocent and that it did not deserve to go to a trial where all the facts come out, where proponents for Breonna Taylor, proponents against Breonna Taylor, eyewitnesses accounts. None of that mattered. None of that mattered. So when you have information streaming in through one person or one entity, and you only have limited information to make a decision, then based upon the information that grand jury was given in Kentucky, they found that there wasn't enough sufficient evidence to charge the cops. And that's my point. It should have went to trial. There should have been a jury of regular folks sitting in that box that is chosen by both sides of the attorneys, once for the state and once against the state, arguing for Breonna Taylor to make that decision, and not a grand jury that was only getting one source of information.
I hear you there, Pac. What do you say to people like Brown Ridge Brian? Saying, how do you get charged with shooting the neighbor house, but not the house where the shots were fired? Get the fuck out of here.
Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, man. And the reason why, because I hear what he's saying. At first, some of the information that was coming out was saying that, the cops heard a gunshot and they began to fire, right? And of course, cops have a right to protect themselves just like anybody else. The difference is that the information leading up to that fatal night when Breonna Taylor was killed was all wrong. It was shoddy information. The person they was looking for, who happened to be a petty drug dealer that they could have picked up at any time, was not in that house. So we have to look at the process. We have to look at how these no-knock warrants are judged and approved or disapproved, and we have to change policy. And I'm glad that at least from this case, some policy changes came out of that. But my main question to you, Juan, Mac, is how much is a Black woman's life really worth? Because they gave Breonna Taylor's family $12 million. And I pose this question even out to our viewers. So anybody who's listening, is your life worth as a Black woman $12 million? Are you willing to give up your life or have somebody take your life for $12 million? I would posit most people would say, no, my life is worth no amount of money because no one could replace me. No one could replace you. But what they're saying, and I think it's interesting that they give and settle that civil lawsuit before this verdict came out. So now they could say, hey, listen, we settled this thing. The family's been paid off. Everything's copacetic. They got millions of dollars. But what about her family? What about the people that were associated with Breonna Taylor? What about her unborn children? I mean, like, all of these things have to play into our mind. So is a black woman's life really worth $12 million? I want to hear from you.
Yeah, and again, Brown Ridge makes the point to the officer. You think about the black officer who killed the white tourist. Minnesota paid out $30 million in that case. Breonna Taylor, different state, I guess you can argue, but they got 12 million. Was the family paid off? I mean, and again, I take issues with this too, right? I mean, you can admit to the payout, the payoff, but you can't admit to the crime.
Right.
Right. Yeah, this one
Right.
just bothers me.
It bothers me, and I'm not gonna lie, Mac. It's like I'm really hurting right now. Like, it's kind of like I'm lost for words because I don't know how to react. And I see people out there. I'm glad you're showing the live streams from the streets. People out there protesting, expressing their frustration and anger. That's what we should be understanding from a visceral level. So you can't talk about these people are wrong or these people out there protesting when people who get shot in their beds in their homes and still get off. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And still get off.
That's right.
So don't talk to me about protesting when people are dying and getting murdered in their homes. Don't talk to me about protesting when you have a system that protects cops
Kentucky
that do not follow the rules. There was no.
They already knew the moves before the moves were made. They knew that the protests were going to come out, so they boarded up their diamond stores, and and they gave you a warning. Yeah, we know you're going to protest, but don't do it here.
Yeah.
By the way, just want to give our audience a clip. So tonight we are on broadcasting live on our Periscope. You are watching a Periscope feed of live protests. These are from the protesters themselves, their point of view. They are broadcasting live. We decided to share with you and to our Periscope followers out there on Twitch as well, and Twitter, that this is the Periscope feed. So this is coming from the protesters themselves. So this is our way of giving you that firsthand view and look as to what's going inside. This scene right here is out of New York.
Out of New York. Yo, shout out to all my peoples in New York that are out there protesting.
How about
everybody
that?
Stay safe.
I was just going to ask you about that. You see that all across the nation, right? I mean, the protests. You would think that it would be just a Louisville thing, but this is clearly it's definitely an American. Can we call it a phenomenon?
Well, when people are hurt, when people are frustrated, when people feel like they have nowhere else to go and their voices aren't being heard, this is what happened. What amazes me is that America in general as a society has become so desensitized to this that it makes no difference that these people are protesting. Okay, it makes no difference to the change makers, to the policy makers. I haven't heard one word from any of the politicians on this. I mean, like, and maybe I'm not looking in the right places right now. If anybody has any other information, please let us know. Chime in to Hip Hop Citizens. We're talking about Breonna Taylor. We're live. We're showing pictures directly from protests out there in the streets in New York City. And we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts and your opinions because we want to make sure that we're including everyone's anger or frustration at how this system takes lives with no repercussions. And I think it's about time that we came together. I'm glad to see a lot of young people out there. I'm glad to see a lot of white people out there protesting this because only when good people come together as a community to fight for change will anything happen. And that being said, let's look at another fact from the Breonna Taylor case. They fired 30 shots into a closed door, into a closed bedroom. The cops did. After hearing one shot, they fired 30 shots. Now, somebody has to ask themselves, a reasonable person has to ask themselves, Matt, whether or not that was reasonable. Okay, whether or not that type of excessive force was justified. In my opinion, I would have to say no. And I challenge these folks to release all of the information that was given to the grand jury. I challenge those folks to release all of the information that they received from people in that complex that night. All of it. So folks in our community, in our society, our politicians, our policymakers can make an informed decision on themselves, whether or not this was a justifiable homicide that warranted no repercussions, hardly to any of the cops that killed that young black woman. Okay? I feel flabbergasted right now. I am not a happy camper. I feel like our women are under attack. I feel like our men are under attack. I feel that good people are under attack right now. Okay? Yeah. And having a show like Hip
I
Hop
think the
Citizen,
gun ownership rights are under attack right now. I mean, because to me, this is the biggest blow to gun advocates. I mean, if you can't protect your home from what I would consider a government overreach, 30 bullets through your window without cause, to me, that amounts to government overreach. I think that this is a cause for all gun owners if you're a Second Amendment right advocate, especially.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that like this is a play to like really just take away all gun owners' rights, or is it just like a play on black and brown people?
Well, again, there's different philosophies that are out there. There are some who are proponents of the 1619 theories, or if you will, fact in some cases. I mean, gun ownership, again, it's a virtual slave mentality. It seems that it's anything to take away, if you're a person of color, gun rights are not for you. It was not meant for Breonna Taylor or her boyfriend for them to protect their homes. The system was there to protect the aggressors. In this case, 30 shots to the windows. It was the police.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Let's remember why and how this country was started. This country was started by revolutionaries that rebelled against Britain, right? So
Yes.
people that came here were considered and started this country were considered criminals.
That's right.
They were considered the lowest of English society. They were considered the bottom of the barrel, the riffraffs, the criminals, the troublemakers. Okay, they started this country. They rebelled against England, and then they set up a system to protect their economic interests. Okay, so the government wasn't set up for black people. The government was set up to protect trade between the United States and other world powers, including England. Okay, so when we look at it from a historical perspective, you got to understand that this system is geared to keep somebody down. This system is geared to make sure that black people, in particular, never get on an equal footing with white people. And I'm not, and it's not to say that every white person feels this way, but historically that's what it is. So in order to change this type of thinking, we have to have brand new structures, brand new policies, brand new ways of doing business that incorporates all Americans. All Americans. It's not just enough to say all men are created equal. It's not enough anymore because it's obvious that not all men and women are created equal here in the United States.
What do you say to those who say that the awakening is upon us? Thank you, Architect Seven. What do you say to those out there who believes that this is just another call for a doomsday? That midnight bomb we're getting closer and closer to doomsday. The clock is about to strike midnight. What do you say to those naysayers? I mean, is this a cause for an awakening, or is it a cause for an awakening of a different kind?
Yeah. Shout out to Architect, man. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for being a consistent, positive brother on this show, and thank you for your questions. I think the awakening has been happening for a long time, right, Matt? I think, but listen, when I was in church when I was a kid, it's real funny. They were always talking about the apocalypse. I grew up in a Pentecostal church. So only thing they talked about every Sunday was the end of the world. And this was in the early, mid 80s and stuff. They're always talking about the end of the world's coming, devil's here, the Antichrist, this and that. And quite honestly, a lot of people would argue, including Brother Malcolm, that life here in the United States is hell. Especially when you look at what we have been through as a people, black people in this country since 1619. So I don't think that this is some kind of grand awakening. I just think this is a continuation of the consciousness that we've been gaining over the past 400 years in this country, and what is done over those times or over those years is build up, killing after killing, lynching after lynching, injustice after injustice. And now this is what we're seeing now in 2020. So I don't know about some end of the world doomsday. I don't know if Trump gets elected. There's going to be a civil war stuff. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about making it through tonight. That's what I'm concerned about. You know what I'm saying? And I want to hear out from all of our people out there in Facebook land and IG land. What do you think on this subject? Is this the end of the world? Are we headed towards a new civil war? Can America make it out of this conundrum that we call the American experiment? Because I think that philosophically, it sounds nice. The land of opportunity, the land of the free, the home of the brave, where everybody gets a fair shot. But we all know, and if we all look deep inside of us, white people, black people, brown people, Puerto Rican people, Asian, everybody knows that things are not equal. And just like I asked in the last show, I'll ask it again. Any white person that's asking this, any white person that says, "Oh, look how far you Negroes have come in these past several hundred years, even the last 30 years, you got affirmative action, and you get all this free money for the government." Look at what we had to go through to get that. Number one. And number two, if you cannot say that you would switch your shoes and your life with a black person right this second, then you know what I'm saying. And there's a reason why most reasonable white people could not say that, because they know fundamentally and inherently that something is not right.
Wait a minute now, hold on now. Are you saying that this is completely a racial thing, or in my mind, I've always questioned, not so much as a race thing, but is this a more of a class thing, right? Is this a class warfare instead of a racial warfare?
Class and economics play into it. I totally agree with that. Rich black people are treated differently than poor black people. But you know what? If you put a rich black person in the same clothes as a poor black person, let's start talking real. Let's start talking real, because it's all about perception. It's all about what people see. When they look at you, Mac, they see a black man with his hat to the back. Okay, I don't care if you had $10 million in your account, which you probably do, knowing you somewhere in the caveman somewhere. But if you did, and you went someplace, do you think those white people will look at you and say, "Oh, that's a rich black man right there with your hat to the back and your brown melanin, beautiful black skin"? I don't think so. So we have to be honest with ourselves and say, yeah, appearances do matter. Skin color does matter. It's only when they talk to you, it's only when they look you up, it's only when you tell them that you're an exceptional black person, or that you're head of a company, or you're a rich CEO, or they see you on Instagram or Facebook, that you may see some different reactions. But if you dressed us all up the same, even the rich black people, a lot of them probably wouldn't even know the difference. So unfortunately, we still are not judged by the content of our character in most cases, in my opinion. Shout out to Mac. Shout out to HipHopCitizen. Shout out to everybody that's paying attention right now. But if it's okay, I wanna talk a little bit about RBG, or who folks call the notorious RBG. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a longtime Supreme Court justice. She was put in there by Clinton in the early 90s, and she dedicated her life for women and human rights. She balanced out the court in a lot of ways. She was a liberal. You guys may have heard of Roe versus Wade. She supported a woman's right to choose and govern the actions of her own body, and she recently died. Now, I respected Justice Ginsburg. I think she was an intelligent woman, brilliant. She fought for a lot of people and helped a lot of people along the way, inspired, more importantly, a lot of people, and she will be looked at, I think, with respect and reverence in the years going forward. But now you have your President Trump saying that he wants to fill her spot with another conservative judge, very conservative judge, before the end of the year. And I would love to hear people comments, especially yours, Mac, on whether or not we feel or you feel that this should happen. Or should they kind of take what the precedent has been in many cases and wait to, or if a new president is elected, i.e., Joe Biden, should it be the will of the people and the will of the new president should Trump lose?
Yeah, in my opinion, but of course, I'm not president. But in my opinion, as a voter, however, and just like you and millions of you out there, I think we should hold our senators accountable. I mean, you can't have this hypocrisy, say one thing and then do another. If you go back to 2016, the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell out there in Kentucky, where all this violent vitriol, or at least the protests are going on, you can't have it both ways. And I think that's it's a shame that when you talk about the robbery of African American and their rights, they robbed the first black president of the right of his right to appoint a third Supreme Court justice. Another classic example of a black man being robbed. So the hypocrisy, in my opinion, is a little bit too surreal. And I hope that the voters in those districts take note, and we must hold those accountable as well.
Absolutely.
In those districts.
And we spoke about this last time. I mean, like people think that the only election that matters is the presidential election every 4 years. But the fact of the matter is the elections that happen every 2 or 4 years on a local level, on a state level, probably have more effect on your lives from a visceral perspective than the actual election of a president. So, I encourage folks to really look at getting more involved in their local politics, city council or alderman, whatever you call it, or state rep or state senate, or government, governor or mayor. Those are elections that really affect the lives of everyday Americans a lot more than folks think or believe. So I encourage you to look up and see what your locally affected elected officials feel on certain subjects, and to Mac's point, hold them accountable.
You gotta hold them accountable. You know what, Pac? Saying I think we're just at the top of our 30-minute segment here. I just want to let everybody know you can look out for episode 3 of the Pac and Mac show, as we'll be bringing it to you live from a hip hop perspective and hip politics, basically, and some of the current events. And Pac, man, have you ever gotten your IG yet? Care to give one out?
Oh.
You still with
Listen, I ain't popular enough. Man. It's like I much prefer that people hit me up right now on the chat room, man. Come to HipHopCitizen, engage. Give me something to talk about. Give us something to talk about.
Clearly, there's plenty of more here to discuss. We're gonna work out the mic issue there and make sure we get all connected right for you next time. Just to let everyone know, you can always find me here at HipHopCitizen as well. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Don Wani Mac, and you're watching Pac and Mac episode